This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Give Trappy a wish list. I probably pull a Angelina and Brad Pitt and adopt a bunch of babies that ain't never had shit. Give away a few Mercedes like, here lady, have this. And last but not least, grant somebody their last wish. It's been a couple months that I've been single. So
Place Me Nation, welcome to episode number 32 of Wrestling Warzone, a Monday Night Wars podcast retrospective. I am JT, and joining me as always is my partner on the show, Chad Campbell. Chad, how are you?
Doing pretty good. Just down some brisket nachos.
Oh.
Very tasty.
Oh, it's like you're living to make me jealous.
Little beer cheese, some nice red onions. Yeah.
All right. Anyway.
Beautiful.
I did get my keto black box, my first month subscription, and today for some snacks. So. Living large.
Yeah.
All right.
You're sticking with it. You're like 2 months in, right?
Yeah, I started the day after Labor Day, so just about 2 months. It's going well.
Yeah, Drew from Ginny and the Gems asked me yesterday how the diet was going. He said we hadn't mentioned it on the last couple episodes. I said there's a reason for that on my end.
Off the rails. Well, Drew, mine's going all right. Mine's going actually really well. I recommend
brisket nachos, Drew. That's all I gotta say.
If you have if you're mentally ready, this has been the most successful diet I've had so far.
Yeah.
So.
I proceeded to tell him last night when he asked that I had just gotten a McRib, so that kind of sums up how things are going.
Yeah. Obviously, about as well as Dirty F is doing here in early '96. Yeah. So before we get to that, though, we did kick off a new tradition last episode, talking about the current wrestling wars, and I think it's a fitting one because. You'll be hearing this a little bit of a lag on this one, so we're recording this about a week behind when you're going to hear it. But today's ratings for last night's Wars installment saw NXT severely close the gap, Chad.
Yeah, this was, really, aesthetically, I think most people have enjoyed both shows. Some have preferred, Dynamite, some have preferred the NXT, but... the ratings haven't been really close in the first, 5 weeks of it. But this week, now we're really in a battle.
Yep.
And I think there's it was an interesting indicator because I would say this was probably just from a quality standpoint, probably my second favorite Dynamite. From top to bottom, I thought the women's match was really good. Cody's promo was amazing. Mm-hmm. And I like the final angle leading into Full Gear. But NXT, I think, really got helped by the people being stranded in Saudi Arabia. Because, then on SmackDown, you saw, like, Adam Cole beat Daniel Bryan. And have a showcase match.
Let me ask you this. You feel like there was any plan at all to do this NXT invasion? Or did they honestly, do you think they backed and stumbled into it because of the Saudi Arabia stuff and because it went over so well on Friday?
Well, so there has been, rumblings for a while now that they had plans for Adam Cole on the major shows. That was always something I'd heard kind of on the in the Twitter DM kind of area. Mm-hmm. Just that Heyman liked him, was vouching for him, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. I don't think that was a surprise, even from what we'd seen of like Balor showing up at NXT. I think it was only a matter of time before we got some more main roster talent down on the NXT shows proper, especially as they kept losing the ratings. So that's not a surprise too. Now the fact that they're going full hog with it and how they've accelerated it. I don't know if they plan to do it in that scope, but it's a welcome change. I mean, I think it's an angle that has excited at least the WWE fan base that they've had that's been kind of maligned for the last months, years, however long you've been dormant. This is something to kind of sink your teeth into, at least.
Well, and plus with Survivor Series coming, they were likely going to do the title champion matches anyway, because that's kind of a running thing. So maybe there was some thought to having this, but I definitely think it could accelerate it because of how well it went over on Friday. Like I think that's very likely the case, and I think this is probably the most interesting of any sort of invasion angle since like the original NWO, and I'm counting Nexus, because Nexus was presented while a threat also didn't really have like an ace in the group. I mean, Wade Barrett was the lead dog there until Punk, and then it kind of went off the rails. But they have so much invested in these NXT guys, and they are dudes with reps. They are dudes that have put a lot of time in NXT, so they're known. But you have a built-in, easy to believe rivalry with Triple H leading the young guy. Everything that goes into it is believable on levels. But they're also have reason not to make it a squash on either side. So I think this is our best chance to have an even back and forth kind of invasion side versus side thing that they've had. They've tried it with Raw versus SmackDown forever, and it just never clicked because it just didn't feel like invested, whereas this feels like a lot of investment because they haven't even gotten into really. I mean, maybe they haven't watched a lot of the promos because I just kind of had it on side the last couple of weeks, but have they even really gotten into where like this veteran talent held back kind of angle yet either? Because that's out there as well.
Yeah, no, I don't think they've really played that up.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's something they can go to. I mean, there's certain opportunities here. I don't want to be pessimistic because what we've seen's been good. I mean, I thought SmackDown was really good. I mean, that's what, we talked on the last show how SmackDown went to Fox, and besides Brock, squashing Kofi, which Brock squashing people and winning the WWE Championship wasn't even a new thing, but I guess it was new on network TV. But besides that, SmackDown had been mostly the same show. But this I thought was kind of a blessing in disguise. And I was pessimistic about that. Like I was happy for the opportunity when I heard that all those guys were stranded. But I mean, I kind of thought, oh, this will probably be like a ratings disaster. It could stunt the growth for some of these guys if they draw a bad rating because they feature the NXT talent and then they kind of get the blame, which they don't deserve. But it turned out the other way, and it's been a positive so far. So, yeah, I mean, I think the best hope of anybody as a wrestling fan is that the competition will breed creativity, and I think you're seeing that on both ends so far. And WWE stepped up their game, and I mean, they kind of received dividends. I mean, just from last week to this week, they went from I think 580,000 viewers to 820. So,
right.
I mean, that's like a 40% jump. So
yeah, there's obviously interest. And I think anytime they have to do something completely different, like that helps too. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I think the intrigue was there because holy shit, like we know we're getting something that's not status quo on Friday night. I think that probably helped a lot too, and so it'll be good. I mean, hopefully they'll capitalize on it to continue and just turning the heat up. Like we want them to be good, and we want AEW to continue to be good. And I think Full Gear is an interesting show because I think it's probably the pay-per-view. It's an interesting one in my mind because it's the pay-per-view with probably the least hype. Only because it's just a normal promotion now, right? So the last few we've had from them, that's all we've had. Like All In, All Out, Double or Nothing, like that's it. So they were so anticipated because they were basically like super dream cards. And now that it's just part of their normal week-to-week evolution, it's kind of business as usual. And that's not a bad thing at all. But I do think it's a little bit less hype around it. Like I'm not playing, like the last couple I've had like parties and we've gotten together. Like I'm not doing that this time. But I'm going to try to watch or at least follow along and catch it at some point. But that said, I think the potential there for it to be a very good card. Like Jericho Cody, like you mentioned, has been like unbelievably built. So the hype has been great for that match. It'll be curious how they take the direction. So I think it's a big show for them to handle kind of where they're going to come out of that with their big matches. And then Survivor Series is also like a massive show for WWE because it's going to say, are we going to take the NXT people legit? Like, are they going to win those matches? And then the War Games the night before, like the 2 War Games, like it's just a real big weekend for them, I think.
Yeah, I mean, so, I was kind of on the fence with the Full Gear. And I'll say, I mean, like Cody and Jericho have bought me in. So I did purchase it on the Fight App today, which I kind of surprised myself. But I've been so invested in that feud. It's just been a great build. And I think it's a feud that really has stakes. And, you'll be listening to this, you'll know what happened. But it's one where they kind of booked themselves in somewhat of a corner with, if Cody loses, he says he's not going to challenge again for the belt, and you really hope they stick to their word on something like that with a new promotion. And, I mean, Jericho just became champion at All Out, so, which way do you go there? And, there's a possibility, I guess, they could do like a Great American Bash 1988 type finish. I saw with like a blood stoppage or, something wonky where Cody could then save face, but
See, I think that's a risky.
To see.
I think that'd be a risky move for them because
I agree.
They've already had like a decent amount of, because of the record thing, like I feel like they've already kind of went screwy with a bunch of finishes. And I think ending your first real official pay-per-view with some kind of screwy I think it's just like asking for trouble. I don't think they're there yet. But they're also treading a line because if Cody wins, now are you starting to get, now the bookers are just putting themselves over territory, right? And I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to earn it, but I think you're already starting to see some of that seep through. Mainly it's from the haters that wanted to shit on it, but there is some of that seeping through. Like these guys are just putting themselves, it's a Cody vanity promotion, look at his wife. So like they're kind of trapped a little bit. I think Jericho is going to win. I don't think they've taken enough time yet to knock down his stable with the Inner Circle to like have him lose a title already. I think they have to build more to that. So how they get Cody another title shot at some point, I don't know, but I think Jericho's going to win.
Yeah, I thought that maybe like Dustin could turn on Cody or something like that. Kind of something that they thought. But I don't know. I'm interested to see how it turns out though. So yeah, it's been exciting. I mean, this past week in Japan was nuts. There was 4 major shows, really 5 major shows. Let me see. Yeah, there was the Noah show. So there was 3 shows in Sumo Hall in 3 days. There was Noah, DDT, which Kenny Omega wrestled at, and then a Big Japan wrestling show, which Walter was actually on, which was interesting for kind of politics of NXT Japan and whether that's going to be a thing and whatnot. Then you had a big New Japan show and also a big Dragon Gate show. So it's just been a cornucopia, to use a Scott phrase, of
a myriad.
Yes, of wrestling footage I've watched the past week. It's been exciting. I mean, usually I think November, like I've kind of said, it's usually a downtime, but this past week's been really exciting. I've watched a ton of wrestling.
Well, and usually this is a kind of a downtime too. Like usually it picks up a little bit, but it's more toward January. I know Survivor Series is usually the kickoff to like WrestleMania season unofficially, but December can be a bit of a doldrum month. So looks like things are picking up just a little ahead of schedule out there, and of course AEW's birth and rise has helped to that. So, all right, well there's your Wednesday Night War report, which will be a regular feature, I guess, for the near future anyway here on our show. Just ties in so well, Chad. We got to get into it. All right, but why don't we head back in time? 13, almost 14 years ago.
24.
20, Jesus Christ. That's why I'm not the accountant, folks.
Yeah.
Chad's here to check my math all the time. 4 years. All right, so last week we started with Raw and no, what did we do last week?
We started with Nitro last week.
Raw. So we're starting with Raw this week.
Yep.
And then our Nitro will be the go-home for Super Brawl. So, all right, Raw, February 5th, 1996. Chad, why don't you get us into it?
Yeah, and actually, this is kind of a weird situation because with Raw being preempted next week, I think this is the go home for In Your House 6, correct?
Oh yeah, you're right. Yep, because we got Raw and Nitro this episode. Our next episode will be Super Brawl, and the one after that is just the standalone Nitro, the night of the dog show, and then In Your House. So yes, things get a little wonky for us over the next few episodes.
It's probably one of the few times on the Warzone where we'll have 2 shows in one night that are go home episodes.
True. True.
So that's kind of cool.
Should we do the go home superstars in case?
Well, it's a get to. They're actually still doing some stuff on Superstars.
Yeah, definitely.
Still happening. Raw, I couldn't remember if this is the first time, but I know it's rare. So we don't get any of the opening kind of animation graphics.
Yep.
It colds open right to Yoko's music. Vince says that this could be one of the most momentous Raws they've ever had, and they've had a lot of momentous Raws, which, okay. But they've had a few, I guess, by this point. And then Vince and King kind of introduce us and set the stage for the rest of the show, running down the matches. That leads us into our very opening matchup, which is the Dudes with Attitude versus Bulldog and Yokozuna.
In Your House 3 rematch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't think about that. We had In Your House 4 main event open the show. Or was Owen was in the 3, right?
No, but remember he was out sick or whatever, or he was missing,
right.
and then he comes out at the end.
Right. Yeah. Yep. There we go. Okay.
For some reason, though, these matches, there is a little bit more energy in the promotion because these matches do feel a little bigger than they did at that point.
So it's kind of crazy. In the past 2 weeks on Raw, they've main evented 3 out of their last 4 pay-per-views as rematches.
Yeah, right.
This
Brett
one
Taker,
has 2. Yeah. So that's kind of interesting.
Yep.
Bulldog and Sean. First off, when Sean came out, he gave the Wolfpack signal. So I always enjoy when he does that. For the camera.
Just doubling back to that point, I wonder if too, because with Mania coming, if they kind of saw this as a chance to like wrap all the feuds that have been going on in the fall, like knowing they're going to reset everything pretty much in a few weeks.
Yeah,
we kind of saw that after like SummerSlam. Remember we had like Brett Yankum way after, like, and they kind of seem to be putting the bow on the summer going into the fall. So it feels like that to me, like they're kind of just moving past a lot of this stuff as they kind of get ready to reset for the spring.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you're seeing, the stuff they end up doing for Mania is really fresh.
Yep.
If you look at the Mania card, it's a lot of either first-time matchups or stuff we hadn't seen for a while, like Brett versus Sean. So yeah, that's kind of true. They're just finishing up what they had here. So Bulldog and Sean start off. Thought a nice shoulder block by Davey, which sends Sean to the outside. He took a really nice bump where he kind of backpedaled and then hooked himself over the top rope and took a nasty spill. Just a great bump by Sean. Sean tries to rake the eyes to gain the advantage, and then he's able to clothesline Davey Boy to the outside. But Yoko comes in from behind and sends Michaels into Diesel. But Diesel catches him, and they turn that into a crossbody. So that was a good double team by the Dudes with Attitude. Mm-hmm. Diesel then sends Yoko to the outside, and the crowd's pretty hot for that. Yoko and Diesel then face off. The crowd starts chanting for Diesel. But this was kind of cool where Yoko hit a Samoan drop. Like Diesel went in for a charge, and Yoko in one fluid motion just kind of picked him up in the Samoan drop position, dropped him down. That looked great. But he misses the elbow to follow up on that. And then Sean comes back in, gets the tag, and here's where we get our heat segment where Camp Cornette takes over on him. Nice delayed suplex from Davey Boy. We go to break and come back, and Yoko's still pounding away. A little bit of plotting action here by the Hills, but at least we didn't get the dreaded nerve hold, so I was happy for that.
Yes, we're spared.
Keen has a fat joke for Yoko where he says on Groundhog's Day they saw Yoko's shadow and predicted 6 more years of winter. So very, very keen joke there. Yeah. Davey slams Michael by the hair and then does his dance around. I always love when Davey does this where he does like the I don't even know what you call it, but like the front nip up, where
yeah,
you
yeah,
twist around and
dance
very
around.
proud of himself.
It's kind of like I picture him dancing a bicycle by Queen, the
yeah,
little high stepping.
Yeah, it's a little Brad Pitt and Burn After Reading. That's sort of how he parades around. But Yoko misses a splash, and now Sean's able to make the hot tag. Fans start chanting USA. Diesel fires away. Michael hits a big splash off the top of Diesel's shoulders. And then we get the finish where Davey Boy Smith comes in. He accidentally leg drops Yoko. And then Sean gives the sweet chin music to Yoko, sending him to the outside. Owen Hart runs down to try to get Yoko back in the ring, but they're unable to. So the dudes with attitude win by count out. Overall, I thought this was a decent TV match, some good spots, and I like the character work. And then we can get into the ending angle. But as far as the match overall, I went 2.5 stars. A good start, I thought, to Raw.
I went 2.5 as well for this big In Your House 3 rematch. They did recap, Yoko's mishap last week, so they're really playing up the issues lately that have pretty much stemmed since the Rumble. Vince does note that Sean was on Jenny Jones and also has the NBA Jam special event coming up as well. So Sean's starting to make the rounds, maybe starting to get him out in front of the media a little bit as we head towards Mania. And Vince also says there's a recent study that says being a couch potato is bad for your health. So breaking news here, breaking medical news from Vince McMahon. We had a lot, stalling and comedy stuff from Sean early, but I thought it blended into the shine. And they kind of had Bulldog and Yoko stooging a little bit. I did like the Samoan drop spot as well. I had noted that. And when they turned the tide was good too, because Bulldog pulls the top rope and Sean takes a real hard bump to the floor, and then Bulldog throws him into the stair. So it was a good violent switch. It wasn't just a kind of a weak one, which I liked. Vince also lets us know Vader only had a 24-hour career because he's still suspended, but Lawler says Cornette has Clarence Mason on the case still. So we do get a little bit of the nerve hold, but not too much. I love Bulldog when he spikes the hair and, like you said, hopping around and doing the front flip, just really hamming it up. And then Yoko has a really nice vicious slam on Sean, too, which is really good. I liked the hot tag to Diesel. I liked the showdown with Diesel and Yoko, too. That was cool earlier. And then the hot tag was really good. I thought Diesel did a nice job with the clean in house and into the finish. A little disappointing with the count out, but I think it plays into the fact that Camp Cornette is kind of wearing thin with Yoko, being a little bit prone to mistake, even though it hasn't always been him. He's always involved. And then just being a fat slob, they can't get off the mat. It's burned them for a few times now over the years, and it happens again. So we can see that they're kind of running thin on that. So this is by the book. Nothing really stood out. I like the house cleaning at the end. But the bigger story is that Camp Cornette has issues going on. So I went 2.5.
Yeah, so after the match, Cornette's in the ring. He's really berating Yoko. Vince does go a little overboard where he goes, Cornette is verbally raping Yokozuna. So he even pulls out the rape word for what Cornette is doing.
Verbally raping.
Verbally raping. It was kind of awkward
it was
when Vince said that.
A little harsh.
Yeah. And then so Cornette does, basically it's the Bobby Heenan to Andre the Giant WrestleMania 6 spot where he's poking him with his finger. And then Yokozuna finally has enough of that. He shoves Cornette to the ground, a big pop. Davey Boy Smith and Owen Hart go after Yokozuna then, and he's able to fend them off and chases them to the back. And he's pounding his chest, showing a lot of fire. And even Vince says, we haven't seen this energy or fire from Yokozuna in a long time. And, Yokozuna had never been a face in the promotion. And he debuted in the fall of 1992. So it had kind of been a long time running, and I thought the angle was well done and executed well.
No, I agree. It was due. As great of a nasty and fitting heel as he is, it had really been worn out by this point. They breathed some new life into him in 95 by giving him the tag run with Owen and reestablished him there. But at this point now, especially with Vader coming in and some of the other players, it was time. It was definitely time for a change. It was well overdue. 3.5 years as a top heel is fine. It'll be interesting to see where they take him. Obviously, he's never really done much verbally, so will they have him speak for himself? Are they going to still have a mouthpiece? So we'll see where they go with that and just how much they end up using him. Is he going to be here just to put over Vader, or is he actually going to get some kind of push? So, right. But it was due, it was needed, and it was well done, even though, like you said, it pretty much mimicked the Andre Bobby stuff. Were you cool with them doing it like just here on Raw instead of like somewhere bigger or taped Raw and the go home?
I mean, yeah, I thought that this had been built up enough to where, I mean, you couldn't have this many, I guess, miscommunications. Like
Right.
It felt like there was an appropriate amount where, Yoko either had to piss or get off the pot. I mean, he can only be verbally raped so much before he sticks up for himself here. Yeah.
So the interesting thing too is, I mean, I don't know. I can't remember if we get the match announced. I guess we can see later. But they end up doing Yoko and Bulldog in your house. So they throw that in pretty last minute. So this really is Yoko's face turn. It's not like a tease and then like this is it because they're exploding it in 2 weeks in your house.
Yeah, I think they probably may have announced that on the later Superstars.
Yeah, they must have.
Because we didn't get a doc segment in this show, so.
No, and I remember it being pretty. Like I remember at the time it being like last second, like they threw it in there at the last minute. Yeah.
Yeah. So then we have a Mankind vignette, another very quick vignette from him where he says, "Maybe I found a home, a hardcore home." And now I can have a nice day. So already kind of has his tagline.
And they zoom in like on the ear, pretty much.
Yeah, they're zooming in on his ear throughout this. King says that was eerie when they come back to another hokey joke from Waller tonight. And then Vince gives a very passionate ad read for silk stockings. He was really pushing that one. So
yeah, He's pretty pumped up, although Silk Stockings, I think, is coming to an end soon here. I don't think we got too much.
I was actually surprised that it was still hanging on here because I associate it with like the 1993, 1994 era. Let me just give a quick gander of when Silk Stockings finally, oh my God, it must have April 18th, 1999?
Yeah, I don't think it. So it started on CBS, and then it goes to USA. Yeah, it's on USA till '99. It must move though off of Mondays because we get La Femme Nikita. At one point, we had Tech War in '95, which we didn't see. So,
what about the Pacific Blue?
Yes, Pacific Blue. That's coming up. I think that might be later this year, and then La Femme Nikita is '97, I think.
All right.
So they must shift this off on Mondays at some point.
God,
well, they probably did, and then it came back because I think Tech War was definitely in early '95 because they had William Shatner on, and then it must be back here, and then Pacific Blue I think is like the fall of '96. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Just go from the corporate ministry burning crosses to some Silk Stockings action.
Dun, 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 dun.
It's so weird.
Yeah. I definitely remember the open very vividly because if nothing else, it was at the end of all my tapes, my recordings of Raw.
Yes.
You get the open of it. Dun, 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 dun,
dun. Usually had about a 15 or 20 seconds of Silk Stockings before you get the static. So our second match, I was looking forward to this one. It was Hakushi versus 1-2-3 Kid.
Another rematch, Chad. This from SummerSlam 95.
I know, SummerSlam, which I like that match well enough, but I was interested to see what they could do here.
Yep.
Kid has the big bottle with him. I again say that's hokey. We also learned that I guess on Superstars he brought out a stroller to distract Razor.
So stupid. Like this was such a good feud when it started in the fall because it was based in like believability. Like we were on board, Chad, with Kid being pissed at Razor, being flustered, selling out to DiBiase out of desperation of always being the little buddy. Like there was such a natural story there. I don't know why we needed to really gimmick this up with the crybaby stuff. It's got Cornette written all over it, by the way. I mean, I know Cornette was heavily involved in the booking at this point. This felt like just a territorial thing. I don't know, just
some of his worst tendencies. Yeah, definitely.
And this is also a rematch, by the way, from the November Raw. So I wanted to see what we graded that one.
Ooh, okay. Are you can pull that up, I guess, while I.
It was November 20th, which was the big night after Survivor Series Raw. You went 2.25, and I went 2, so we didn't like that one near as much as SummerSlam.
Okay, and that's interesting though that was only the Shawn Collapse Raw, right?
Yeah, and I wonder. I'd have to look back, but I wonder if that was like storied up because it was right after Survivor Series where Kid and Razor, like this was right in the thick of the Kid and Razor stuff, so maybe it was like dragged down a bit. I feel like it was more of a kid squash, honestly. No, I think back because they were kicking off a heel turn.
Right. Well, I don't want to bury the lead, but that's interesting. It was on that show, and I'll get to that later. So there was some basic but fun mat work to start, I thought. Hakushi kicks the leg out of Kid, but Kid nips up. Lawler's laughing at the thought of Razor in a diaper again. Now, he's had some bad lines, but I didn't enjoy this one. He says that Razor was so ugly, his mother diapered the wrong end for the first 6 months of his life. So I thought that one was good. Then Kid sends Hakushi to the outside, hits a somersault pescado, and landed right on his feet. That looked great. Running drop kick from Kid back on the outside as well as we go to a break. Back from break, we see a replay of 1, 2, 3 Kid hitting a flush front kick to counter Hakushi, and that hit him right in the forehead. Suplex from Kid, he scales the top. Hakushi counters that with a drop kick right to the midsection. And then Hakushi hits his springboard elbow and flying forearm for a near fall. An enziguri variation by Hakushi, and Kid powders to the outside. Hakushi hits a really good-looking springboard splash on the outside. We go back inside, and Kid is able to counter back with a spinning back kick for 2. Hakushi reverses the pin attempt. The Kid puts him in and kind of a rolling cradle for another 2 count. Then Hakushi gets a Rana for another 2 count. So some really good action, as you can read by my description here. I thought the crowd here kind of brought it down, but this was the last taping, so probably just burn out, but a little disappointing because the action was good. Hakushi goes up top, but Kid's able to drop kick him and then hits a really cool-looking super butterfly suplex from the top rope for the 3 count. So I thought this was and Kid does do the Wolfpack symbol after he wins, so there we go, solidarity there. So I thought this was a real good match, and to me it kind of showcased how, again, Raw had some guys that could counterpunch versus what you were seeing on Nitro, because the action here felt comparable to what we've seen on Nitro, and we just hadn't seen many matches on Raw that felt that way. So I think, if they kept building stuff with this, and we'll see going forward. Honestly, don't know how much showcase matches we get like this, but I mean, this was given a good amount of time to tell a good story, mixed in high spots, stiff strikes, and just overall was a really good wrestling match. 3 stars, so maybe I'm even underselling that, but I just thought it was a real good wrestling match, and on Raw so far, we just haven't had, honestly, that many that were like that, especially on the undercard. So it was a welcome sight to see.
For sure. And I think the only downside versus compared to those Nitro matches is this feels like Hakushi's clearly cooked. You know what I mean? Like this doesn't feel like 2 young up-and-comers. It feels like Kid doing this weird gimmick, and it is like 2 guys that just went because they could, but there wasn't like a feel of urgency as far as, okay, this is like a big match for these guys on the card. Like, unless you still had faith that Hakushi wasn't washed at this point. But that all said, I thought maybe this was his last match, but we'll see him at least one more time in March. But he's not around too much longer. Like we always see, by early March, he's gone TV wise. I think he's gone even before that as far as like live stuff. So we're getting near the end for Hakushi. So I liked the early back and forth. Vince also notes there's an India tour going on right now. We'll see exclusive footage this weekend on Superstars. Kid turns it over, that nice somersault senton. That was a good spot. I liked the offense from Kid. I thought the kicks and strikes were sharp. They weren't lazy. I liked the Hakushi meeting with the drop kick as he came off the top to start his rally. That was really nice. The handspring elbow, the dive to the floor. And what I found admirable by Hakushi was, for a guy that's in his position where he had a big push, but never really got like the King's push, like it just kind of ended. And since really the summer when he started this face run, has been saddled with Barry Horowitz, the skip stuff. Like he had every right to go out there and mail this one in, but he is emptying the tank and like just really letting it go late in his run here. So I don't know if he had known he was leaving yet, or if he was showing his wares for a return to Japan, or one of the other American promotions. I'm not sure what he had in mind, or maybe he just liked the kid and liked their work. So, but he is out there really working hard in this match, which I thought was cool, especially on the last night of the taping. Like they had every reason for him to mail this match in, and he doesn't, which was cool. So I like the top rope shoulder block and the really good near fall and that reverse pin, like you said, and then the Frankensteiner Rana was really good, and then the finish was nice too. That super underhook suplex is really not a move you see often, especially at this time.
No.
So Kid really showed off at that. That was a good match. It was tight, well worked. Everything clicked. It built smoothly. They have nice chemistry. It's a good win for Kid, a clean win, no bullshit. You beat them clean, head into In Your House, and I thought Hakushi really deserves so much more. Like he's busting his ass out there, a guy that could have been more and should have been more. If it was a different time, it just wasn't going to happen at this era here. So 3 stars for me too, Chad, and just a reminder of what Hakushi could have been.
Yeah. This was kind of a fun one to maybe go back and watch if you're picking and choosing on our watch along here. Then we get a Jim Cornette, Clarence Mason promo. This was similar to what they had to say last week. Just Mason had prepared case law, and he said he personally had been to the Supreme Court to argue. And Mason says that they will sue unless there's immediate reinstatement of Vader.
Using his powers unilaterally.
So, then we hear from Gorilla Monsoon himself. He's got a nice neck brace on. He goes through his injuries. I can't remember exactly. He said he had a hairline fracture
of his vertebrae, but of course he does the third scapularis of the spine, like all the usual stuff that he says.
Yeah. And then he also said something kind of along that line of like the contortionist cartilage of his stomach or whatever. So it's like, okay. Now, Monsoon says that while he was provoked, he really didn't respond in a presidential manner, so he's a little resourceful for that. Vince, of course, asks, well, are you going to apologize to Vader? And Monsoon says absolutely not at that. He scoffs at that. And then he says, and then they ask about the reinstatement. He says, well, that's in the hands of the board of directors. So that seems like kind of a weird ruling there.
Right. Especially since we haven't really heard much about the board of directors yet. It's more been kind of a WCW thing to this point.
Yeah. So that means if you're the president of the company, you can just suspend whoever, and then it's up to the POD to determine.
The blog, maybe because of because he was involved in the angle and like the lawsuit stuff. They're recusing him from being in, having say in Vader's future. Perhaps
conflicted party.
I do like that he when he asked about the apology, highly unlikely. He breaks that out. He's getting all the classics in this one.
The King asks about Piper. Monsoon says he's a man's man in desperate times, call for desperate measures and desperate actions, and he thinks Hot Rod's going to clean the place up. And then we pretty much learn that Monsoon won't be back until Mania.
Yep.
So he's written out until then.
Yeah, well, it gives us a good couple months of Piper, so makes sense.
Yeah, yep. And I think that was all I had before we went into our main event.
Well, we did have Doc, one thing with him. He quickly plugs the Slammy Awards. Says ballots are open, so that'll be happening, I believe, the night before Mania will be the Slammies on returning to USA. So, and that is a show, Chad, that I taped and watched like endlessly. I really found that Slammy show enjoyable at the time. Also, they had the awesome Sunny bikini music video, of course. We also learned the dog show's preempting Raw next week. So, like you said, this is essentially the go home for In Your House as far as Raw goes.
Yeah, we hear that from Vince. He has to kind of announce that. And then we get our big main event, which is the rematch from the Royal Rumble, Undertaker versus Bret Hart. We've had 2, I thought, good matches, so I was hoping this would keep up the momentum. And it's just so weird to me, as I'll get to in my description, but these 2 guys that have such great chemistry a year and a half later just have nothing now. Taker does not have his face mask on,
thankfully.
So that's gone. He does have the early advantage in this match. Really plodding start, just kind of punching and kicking, and just nothing really happening. Diesel comes out, and just sort of walks out when Taker is about to do his rope walk on the top rope. And he sees Diesel, gets distracted by a little bit, and that allows Brett to drag him from the top rope and take over. Brett starts working on the leg as Diesel sits down on commentary. I didn't think Diesel seemed too interested on commentary here.
No, definitely not.
He does get in a decent line where I think his Vince asked him, what do you say about Taker saying it'll be a cold day in hell before you win the WWF title? And Diesel says, hey, I think it was minus 70 in hell today. It's like, all right.
Well, we'll see it play out a little bit more over the coming weeks, but I believe the contract stuff is starting now. So it wouldn't shock me if, he might have just been doing like the cool guy gimmick, and that's why he seems checked out. Right. But it also could have been possibly legit too, because that was all firing up right now.
Yeah. So we take a break. We come back from that with Taker hitting a suplex, get some more back and forth, and then Taker hits his clothesline. But Brett comes back and starts working on the leg some more. Then we get into the finishing stretch where Taker went for the tombstone. Mm-hmm. Once he lifts Brett up, his Brett's legs kick the referee.
God. And that was awful. It was so bad, like so fake looking.
Yeah, didn't look very organic at all.
No.
Then Brett gets spilled to the outside. Diesel leaves the commentator's booth and starts attacking him. He posts him on the post. And then Taker rolls to the outside, starts going after Diesel, and ends up posting him. And then as Taker tries to go back to his attack on Bret Hart, Diesel's able to come back with a chair, slam the chair on Taker, and then gets him in the ring and hits not one but two jackknives. And that looked pretty cool. I liked after the first jackknife, they kind of teased the Taker sit-up.
Yeah.
And he kind of gets like a quarter of the way up and then goes back down, showing Diesel's power. And then Brett actually recovers and pounds away with Diesel in the hallway and chases him out. So they kind of go to break in the midst of all this mayhem. We come back from break and learn that the match was a draw. So I didn't think this was a very good match at all, which was disappointing. And like I said, there's just not much chemistry between these two right now. So I ended up going 1.5 stars for this one.
No, I went a little higher. I went the 2, which I don't know. I think that's. Did I give them that at the Rumble too? Just like a respect.
Cursory 2. Yeah.
I went 2, and actually we went a little higher. You went 2.5. I went 2 3/4 at the Rumble.
I actually thought. I mean, the Rumble match is like the ultimate. Yeah. It's not great. It's not bad. It's a match. Right. This one I thought was like, just do something. Like you have a tight window. I know the main thing, like the bones here is to get. Oh, and actually, also when they were fighting on the outside, I think it was King mentioned something about, this is what they were talking about with the triple threat match. I think Piper had mentioned that or something.
Yeah,
I guess on Superstars. Like he didn't mention it last week. So I thought that was interesting, like that they were kind of teasing that. I don't know if that was ever in the cards or
right. Like, and I don't remember it too well. Like I always thought the first. So they're saying the match itself was on Super. I haven't noted that the triple threat.
No. I think they said it was something along the lines of, this could set up that triple threat match that Piper was talking about on Superstars or something like he just mentioned it as a possibility that a match like that could happen.
Right. Yeah. I wonder if they did it on a house show maybe as like a trial, because I don't think I think they don't do a triple threat. I think until the summer of '97 on Raw is like their first official one.
Wow. So they go a really long time after mentioning it here.
But there could be one on a house show, possibly. Yeah. I'm not sure, but yeah, I noted that too. That because he says. So in Huntington on a Superstars taping on February 20th, Bret Hart pinned Undertaker after Diesel interfered. The bout was supposed to be a triple threat match involving Diesel, but he was too injured. There was one. Oh no, Diesel was originally making a triple threat contest. So yeah, it looks like they did that a couple times, and that's it. They did it twice. It looks like, at least that's what Graham has. I don't know if there was anything else, but. So they had planned it at least a couple times. So maybe it was going to be like a dry run for something, and then they just never go back to it. So Vince says Brett demanded this match despite the protests of Diesel to give it to him. Both guys got a big pop, and it was interesting because it was kind of a rare big championship match feel on a taped Raw. which you don't always get. So we don't always get like world title matches on tape Raw. So it was a big deal in some ways. They do put over the madness of Piper with all our saying about the triple threat match. Vince says the marketing suits are struggling. They're going nuts to keep up with all his ideas that he's rolling out. We're not actually seeing any of them, but he's talking about them.
No. Yeah.
We get the fucking face smother. Like, it's like Taker couldn't wait to do that face smother again on Brett. It's like he loved it so much at the Rumble. He's got, I gotta get right to it. And that's where Diesel comes out. We go right back to the leg lock. It's just like the Rumble template. Like, it was so disappointing to go back to it. Between the face smother, the leg lock, it's like they learned nothing from that match. And then we get so much working the leg. Diesel talks about Brett taking on too much, which I liked. The offense from Taker was so meandering. And then, of course, you get the tombstone with the awful ref bump, which I hated. The roll-up, there's no count, of course. And then Diesel really wakes up the crowd finally when he attacks Brett on the floor, throws him to the post to get the brawl. I love the chair shot from Diesel, the jackknifes. I loved him talking shit to him before hitting the second one. Like, that was classic Diesel. That was really cool.
Yeah.
But the ref being out at this point was laughable still. Like, the ref is still down from that lame-ass kick to the head that he had. He's been out for, like, so long, which I thought was a joke and not believable. But I thought Diesel looked like a real beast through all this. He threatens Brett, walks off, then we get the brawl, and Taker sitting up. So the match itself was boring, pedantic, just like the Rumble. There's no chemistry, and it's such a waste of Taker's big match. We've been waiting for this title shot for, if you're a Taker fan, for how many years? Like, he's been out of the title picture since late '91, so we're like 4 years in, and he's finally back in the world title picture, and just get these two stinkers against arguably one of the best wrestlers in company history at this point, Bret Hart. It's like you would think, all right, we have this great workers champion, and Taker's finally getting title matches, and then just proceed to just put these stinkers out. The Diesel attack completely saved everything as he's continuing to feud with both Taker and Brett at this point. So I do like the multi-channel main event feud that we have going on. Like, that's cool, and that'll be a running theme over the next couple of years. But for right now, the match itself was disappointing, but the hype around Diesel's heel turn and everything that's come from it has really been a breath of fresh air for them. So I went 2 stars on the match.
Yeah, and as you talked about at the beginning of this show, and I think that was the case here, where Survivor Series kind of started, I guess, our path to Mania.
Yes.
Here we are in February. Mania is the last day of March, and we've had not one interaction between Hart and Michaels so far. So it's
like they were really focused on In Your House. I mean, I guess, too, this is the first year they've had a pay-per-view between the Rumble and Mania.
Right.
So maybe they're just thrown off a bit on how to build to Mania while also doing this pay-per-view. It's like they felt like they had to do this pay-per-view and then earnestly start the build to Mania.
Right. So then we finish up the night with Billionaire Ted's Wrestling War Room, which is a continuation of last week's press conference.
And we're seeing it in spite of the threats of legal action.
So. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're proudly presenting it again, despite the lawsuits that are pending. So basically, I mean, this is kind of just more question and answers. And the main gist of this one is they're trying to present Ted as not taking it serious, and Ted keeps calling it WCW's plaything, and they're like, well, Ted, you're losing millions of dollars. What do you got to say about that? And he's just like, well,
fun.
Yep, having fun. And they ask about the Time Warner merger, and he still says, I'm having fun. It's my plaything and all that. So they're really trying to sabotage. And
he said he's motivated by money and power.
Yes. And then did they say at the end, like, when I see my dad again, I'll tell him to kiss my. And he does that. So just really, really, really bottom of the barrel.
And again, the only highlight was Huckster and Nacho preening in the background.
Yeah, I was kind of sad we didn't get any Hulkster lines here. Like on the Money and Power, I could see Hulkster saying, "Hey, me too, brother," or something like that.
It's like they were trying to go too serious with this one, sadly. And then we get this image of this.
I'd forgotten about this.
Yeah, so they did like an op-ed opinion piece / ad that they wrote to Turner shareholders. Vince says the Wall Street Journal and New York Times rejected it, but they will run a modified version on the New York Times finance section this Wednesday. So he is really going hard on this war here. on Ted Turner. I thought this was the worst Billionaire Ted so far and the most evil. Like, this is now like really nasty stuff.
Yeah.
Like, and he is playing this war out in a form that nobody wants to see. It is not funny. It's not witty. Like, if they had done it in a way where it's told through the characters, like in a kind of sneaky way, that would be so much better. But this is just so ham-fisted and blatant. Like, these press people are just asking the questions, and then Ted is looking like a yokel. Like, there's no creativity to it at all. And then the op-ed piece is just like, what the fuck, you know?
Oh yeah, this is a smear campaign, is all that is. Yeah, I mean, this wasn't funny at all, and the ad piece, like you said, I'd forgotten about that. Straight out of the Trump playbook for the Central Park 5 case of just, pasting their opinion right there on the front page of the news or whatever. So
you get serious Vince narrating it, so you know it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Version will run on the New York Times finance section.
Yeah, it's like the ad said like, "Hey, Time Warner,
right?
Are you okay with some losing $40 million?"
Right. Yeah, basically, exactly what he's doing is calling out Time Warner, and also the stockholders, right? He's basically saying, "Hey, shareholders," in which the irony of all ironies, right? Or are your shareholders happy that XFL is going to be pissing away all this with so many?
Right.
And Linda McMahon's. I mean, it's funny how things come around, but what he's basically saying is, "Hey, Turner shareholders, are you know?" Turner is basically his whole argument is Ted Turner is spending all this money and basically trying to create a monopoly, ruining the wrestling business by stifling competition, and he's only doing it because he has a personal grudge with me. Like that's the whole that's his whole story boiled down.
Right. So that was something. So let's get
on a dark note.
That's it. Yeah, I mean they main evented with this, so there's absolutely nothing else after learning the modified versions coming Wednesday. So what was your match of the night? I think it's pretty easy, right? Hakushi Kid, yeah. Your star
or
moment?
Yeah, moment. I want Diesel attacking Undertaker.
I think I would actually go probably Yoko turning face.
Yeah, that was a good one too.
Okay.
I went with Diesel for MVP.
Yeah, I went with Diesel as well. Did you get some commentary?
Yep, I have. We're preempted by Billionaire Ted to the King. No, another kind of dog show.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I was told I could get a pay increase if I came down and did some commentary. That was Diesel. You're not afraid of the dark, Vince. I have a rechargeable flashlight at home, Diesel. It's -70 in hell. That's a cold day in hell, says Diesel. Yeah. So mainly Diesel commentary there for me.
No debuts.
Nope. The only shots fired was this Billionaire Ted.
Right. And 2.7 was the rating. So that was up 0.3 from last week. So a little tick up. And what did you give as a grade here?
I went 5 out of 10. They tried. They pumped out some big matches. We had a rare, very good match with Kid and Hakushi. We had a very good opener, I thought, or a fine opener, we should say. We had two big moments with the Diesel attack, the Yoko face turn. But Brett Taker was such a drain and so depressing that it didn't carry anything. And then the Billionaire Ted stuff was a real downer at the end. So I went 5 out of 10. Just feel like a very down the middle of Raw when there's some good, some bad, and it just all kind of washes out.
Okay, so I agree we sputtered out a little bit at the end, but I actually thought this was my second favorite Raw since we've been watching.
Oh wow!
And it's only second to the other one, the November 20th that had Kid versus Hakushi too. So that's where that turns into comes full circle, I guess. So I went 6.5 out of 10. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean, even so, like. Taker versus Brett sucked, but at least the character work and angle development was there. Right. So I
like
can
last week's better actually. I went 6 out of 10 last week.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think last week's was that bad either. I mean, Raw's been behind, but to me it does feel like we're in the doldrums of. Like what you were talking about, where it's like Yankum versus Brett main event, and just like Mabel still hanging around. Like we're at least getting some interesting, juicy stuff from some characters that feel like big names, and not just kind of guys coming in for a little bit of time and getting an opportunity.
Yeah, the interesting thing is Like, I think Raw at this point would be a fine show, like, if there was no Nitro. Like, you'd probably be happy with Raw if you were just watching that and Nitro didn't exist. Right. But the problem is Nitro is so alive and different that it's just that much better. But that doesn't mean Raw's been bad, per se. But, yeah, we were out of the real doldrums, which are, very heavy at the end of 95 and very early 96. So we're starting to creep out, and things will definitely improve as we get past Mania and we start to get some real fresh blood. It's still a while before they take the big leap, but we're getting better. We're going to get better. So why don't we really take a break? Not take a break, but why don't we talk for a moment here about what's going on in world of PlayStationNation.com and our feeds over on the PTM Pop feed. The Sarcastic Four back with the latest episode of Marvel Age Podcast, continuing to look through about a third of the most significant output from 1972. We had a lot of October Halloween-related content that went up on the Pop feed, and one of the last ones that did go up was Scott Criscuolo and Jennifer Smith wrapping up the month with a month-long tribute to Halloween and What a Scream, the History of Horror in America special. So listen to that. The Hard Traveling Fanboys were back with the latest edition of Fix It or Nix It, looking at 2015's Fantastic Four, and the weekly episode of DC For You delivers an in-depth look at the current events from this month. Of course, This Week in the NFL is out each and every week as well, previewing the next edition of games and reviewing the past weekend's batch. Another weekly show, siblings Kevin and Mary host a brother-sister rewatch podcast. They're working their way through Season 3 of The Office. It's one of my favorite podcasts right now, Chad. I'm really into it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, Office is a good show to rewatch. Mm-hmm. I found it a good show to rewatch if you just, don't want to watch like a whole series, but, like catch a couple episodes here and there.
Yeah, no, it's really good, and the podcast is a great look, especially Season 3, because that's really
seasons. I'd say 2 and 3 are the two best seasons of The Office. So
new show, Chad, Diamond Conversations. Another Chad B is the host there. On the third episode, he has an interview with author Chris Donnelly, talking about the '85 Mets. He's talked about former players as well. He's had on the show, so it's really cool if you're kind of in the inside baseball diehard fan. He's had some interesting guests so far.
Yeah, it almost, in some ways, it feels like the baseball version of Row 1, Seat 1.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
On the latest episode of Laugh-In Theater, Andy was joined by Miranda to live watch the 1988 comedy Beetlejuice. And, of course, the greatest sitcom of all time tournament starting up soon. Like the tournament page on Facebook so you don't miss a single matchup. And later this week, or at some point in the next week, will be a preview podcast looking at the brackets to kick off the tournament. So be ready for that. Get your voting finger ready. Over on the wrestling feed, Chad, we continue to dip in the vault. You and Parv had a review of Great American Bash 88. Any memories of that one?
Well, like I said, we may see a repeat of the finish with Full Gear. I guess you'll know by the time you hear this. But, yeah, I like that show. I think, the ending match with Luger and Flair, it's a crap finish, but the match leading up to that was very good. So
yeah, and that was a fun episode. You and Parv are starting to get like close to your groove at this point now.
Yeah, I think I really think we sort of hit our zenith and kind of the 89-90 territory, but I think this was a kind of important step for the show as we'd kind of phased out the Samick was already phased out, and we were kind of getting our guest rotation in, so should be kind of hitting the quote-unquote peak of that show.
Yeah, no, looking forward to it. And like I told Ben on my recent episode there, it's my vanity podcast at this point. When I'm ready for the next one, I throw one up.
There you go.
All right, speaking of Ben Zanni, Row 1, Seat 1, episode 28, I was on, Ben. We talked about, with Ben, my history as a wrestling fan and the founding and growth of Place to Be Nation and the Place to Be podcast. It felt like a sprint, not a marathon in that episode. We didn't take a breath on that one. We just cruised right through everything. So we talked a lot about kind of how I met Scott and how everything grew from there, where the site took different left and right turns, where it is today, and then just everything, me as a fan and how I got into wrestling and how my family approached it and whatnot. So have you listened to that yet, Chad?
I have not, but I'm sure it's probably a good intro to the origins of PTBN.
Yeah, I dug it. We have a new show on the feed, With This Ring. Husband and wife Ryan and Cindy looked at 5 matches. I talked about Ryan's GWE list as well as Cindy's personal list. So I heard you like that show.
Yeah, so Cindy's a better sport than my wife. I enjoyed the dynamic because you have Ryan who from our trivia tournaments definitely knows his stuff, real long term WWF fan, and it's nice to see because I think most of us are in a relationship where our spouse or significant other kind of humors us with our wrestling fandom for the most part. And so to see kind of her opinions on some of the matches, especially like in they watched the Hardy Boys versus Edge of Christian TIT match from No Mercy '99.
Yep.
And just her talking about like, some of the latter spots were gratuitous and didn't really seem like they were trying to win the match. Kind of cool, advanced thoughts that you got from a first time viewer there. So I found that intriguing.
Yeah, no, it's a good show, and Cindy's really cool. We met her in Brooklyn at SummerSlam 15, I think. Her and Ryan came out. So, Place to Be podcast, a couple new episodes. Scott and I were joined by the Cowboy, by Mr. Atherton, and Matt Souza. We did a live watch of the Mike Tyson-Buster Douglas boxing championship match from 2/11/90, and that is because we are around that time frame on the podcast. And earlier this week, we were joined by Peter Winson for a review of the January 90 Saturday Night's Main Event. So we are creeping toward WrestleMania 6 in the Place to Be podcast timeline. And finally, the latest PTB and Extreme 3-Way Dance, myself, D'Amato, and Jenny, continuing our adventure. 3 more episodes of Hardcore TV from June 94, and Hostile City Showdown will be coming this week as well. So keep an eye out for that. Pay-per-view review. Also, this past week, you would have heard the debut episode of our brand new wrestling game show, Body Press Your Luck. It was a lot of fun to do. It's a quick, breezy listen. If you like wrestling trivia, you will love this show. It was a lot of fun. We had some good competitors on, and we'll continue to bring that to you. We're looking at monthly right now, so hope you enjoyed that. Bring us any feedback. Also, subscribe to the Jenny Position on iTunes, the new home of Geek and Sassy, talking pop, freak out driving, telling stories, and much more. A lot of fun content coming from Jenny. It's an easy subscribe, easy listens, easy downloads. Telling stories was fun to do, if you haven't heard the second installment yet, and fun to listen to as well. PlayStation.com, each and every day, new voices, fresh takes, wrestling world, sports, pop culture. We have the SmackDown and Fox Report. We have This Week in WWE with John Crow, Jason's DVD Deep Dive, and Ben's Unpopular Opinion, plus other veteran columns like the Wednesday Walk Around the Web with Glenn Butler, Scott and Logan with Campus Hot Takes. Shop with us, PlayStation.com/Amazon, and start prepping and submitting your ballots for the GWWE Pay-Per-View TV Match Ever project. That is, ballots are open. They're available on the Facebook page, or you can check out the message board, bigelow34.proboards.com, and get those ballots in by December 31st. All right, Chad, time to head down south for Monday Nitro from this same week. Do you want to get us going on that?
Yeah, so we go in and, with Nitro, we get our opening, and they do not mention what town they're in. Did you notice this? Like, Bischoff never says it.
It's weird. So was it taped?
It was not taped. I checked that as well.
All right, because usually when they don't say the town and they're vague, it's because they're taped, but okay.
Yeah, so they didn't even give it on, like, the scroll at the bottom for the opening. They were in Lakeland, Florida.
Okay,
so I don't know if it's just like one of the it's a Cajun Dome Raw situation where they don't want to say they're in Shreveport or whatever, so we're in the Cajun Dome.
Right, they're the Jenkins Arena.
Yeah. So Bischoff just kept saying, this hot capacity corral, but they were in Lakeland, Florida.
And they're in Florida next week, too, so they're hanging down there.
Right. The Super Brawl's at the Bayfront in St. Petersburg. Now, Pepe, I couldn't figure this out. So, was this an Annie outfit?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't even ever make note because you usually handle it for me. So I just wait for the info from you.
So, is Pepe a male or female? Do we even know?
He's a male, for sure.
I was fixing that.
Mongo ain't got no bitch. Not a slap.
Okay. So Pepe was in a red wig, and it looked like either like a Amish dress or maid or I
Raggedy
don't know.
Andy,
so
maybe.
I assumed it was an Annie kind of orphan outfit, but very, very odd. It was very odd here. So we get our usual intro where they run down the show as well. Same as like on Raw with King and Vince. And we got our first match, which looked very tasty on paper. Chris Benoit versus Randy Savage.
By the way, Mongo at one point, when they're talking about the cage match for Super Bowl, says Hogan could be blind if his eye gets scraped into the chain link. So he's very concerned.
Yeah, he gives a lot of visuals about the cage
yes.
throughout the show. He's like, it's at the end, but he's like, why don't you go out and rake your face across the cage and see how much you like? It's like, okay, easy. Chill out. So Benoit versus Savage, first time matchup, I believe. I probably should have double checked, but I would assume.
I feel like they may have actually fought before.
I'll look it up in a minute. But I was still excited to see it.
Oh, yeah.
So a really intense lockup. They go after each other right at the bell. Action spills to the outside.
It may be Benoit's first title match.
Oh,
world title match.
That's true too.
There we go. TV here, so.
Yeah. Benoit is able to gain the advantage on the outside. He gets a lot of offense in on Macho, usual, very giving wrestler. Certainly here where Benoit gets a lot of chops and punches and headbutts. Liz and Woman are out for Savage for this match. Yeah, the Devilish Woman. And really good snap suplex from Benoit. Benoit then hits the diving headbutt. And, Mongo's impressed at this point. He's like, oh. He's like, oh, look at this. Benoit hits then a back suplex for 2. Eric calls him relentless. Action spills to the outside, and Savage gets posted. But then Savage fights back with a nice clothesline, and that's cool as Bobby puts Savage over. He's like, hey, he's back on his feet. He just won't stay down. But then we get kind of a cool turn that I don't think was, this just wasn't very telegraphed, but it worked for me, where Woman distracts Savage. Benoit puts him on the outside. And then this was gross, where Benoit does his diving headbutt.
Yep.
His face pretty much smacks across the concrete floor, and then a little bit of the guardrail as well.
It's disgusting,
but, didn't hit the mat at all. And then Savage rolls him back in and hits a nasty-looking elbow drop where Benoit's face down.
Yeah.
So Savage popped him right in the back of the head, and that looked gross. So Savage gets the pinfall there. Or no, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't. He goes to cover, but Flair comes out.
Yeah, he goes to cover him. Flair runs out, starts talking to Liz, smack talking her, and then Flair and Arn attack as Woman turns on the Macho Man. So we get the big turn. That draws the DQ. And I guess I'll just run down the little closing angle here.
Okay.
Where right before the interview, where Hogan comes out, he got a nice pop for the save. He hits Arn and Benoit with the chair, and the Horsemen and Woman now retreat as she's one of them. So a really good match. I mean, I will say, I watched Raw. I enjoyed that show.
It's night and day. Yeah.
But yeah, so I watched that first, and I was like, hey, it's a good show. Raw might have a chance to win this week. And then I watched this, and it's like, oh yeah, this just still had more energy than even some like Hakushi versus Kid. So I ended up giving this 3 1/4. I just really enjoyed this match. Would like to have seen probably a long form match between these two that went, 15 minutes. I think that could have been an absolutely great match. So right. I enjoyed this one immensely.
It's like, look at Raw's rolling out. Like, that's a big card for Raw. Like, look at where Raw's come from in the last 3 years. And you can say, like, wow, like that is a big card for them. Like a world title match, 3 matches, all with big stars, or good workers. And then Nitro just comes out and trumps anything they had in the opener with just a random match that they can throw out here. Like, Benoit's not even positioned as a top contender. He just throws out there with the champion. And they go out there and just have a match that was better than anything on Raw. So it's just like, it's a different deck of cards at this point, the way they're set up with these 2 shows. Savage gets a real big pop. And I like that tussle to begin with. Benoit going at the neck, and it felt like 2 wild animals. Like Savage is lunging and scratching, and Benoit's just punching him off and hard offense. So it really felt like these 2 guys scrapping and going at it, which I liked the feel there. Mongo had an astute point, says Flair's using Benoit to soften Savage up for Super Brawl. I like that. A lot of deliberate offense by Benoit. Hits the flying headbutt, but he can't cover because he's too hurt. The back suplex by Benoit was really hard and nasty there. And then, we just get the sick, disgusting bump where Benoit misses the dive to the floor, smashes onto the floor, slides into the guardrail. Just a gross, one of those ones that you cringe when you see because of what would come. And then, we get the big woman heel turn. I thought that was really well done. The Devil's Woman, she laughs it up as Flair and Arn beat the shit out of Savage. The big elbow to the back is one of my favorite Savage moves. He only breaks it out now and then. I think he uses a little bit more, like in '97, but when he did hit it, it felt even more vicious somehow. Like the big elbow is always a great move, but when he does it to the back, it feels like even more, just like brutal. And it looked at here. So he busted out to really play up the stiffness of this match, and then you get the Hogan save. I thought this match made Benoit look like a star. I mean, he is hanging in there and doling it out to Savage, with Savage selling like he always does so well. We get a shit kicking, seeks out the win. Good opener, high quality ring work, and it's unique. WCW, WWF is like emptying the tank, and then WCW can reach in the holster and just chuck this match out on TV. Like, here you go. Like, we can just throw this out. The post match was real hot. The woman turn was well done. I went 3 1/4.
Wow. So we, I believe then we have a hidden gem.
Yeah.
So there we go. Hidden gem there. And I did look it up. It looks like they fought on WCW Saturday night previously.
So. Yeah.
And then, as we'll learn later, we get the rematch on Saturday night after this. So I probably will try to seek that out. Mean Gene comes in.
Did the '96 project? I think it may be.
Well,
on there.
I'm actually doing that. Actually, I'm
okay.
the remaining person.
Yeah. All right, so it should be. I think it's in the matches there that were.
Yeah, I just I did a catch up of. I've even made it a little more comprehensive where I've been doing more international stuff. So I did. Before I watched this show, I watched some All Japan stuff yesterday. So ready to go, almost ready to put a bow on January. So I think I got 3 or 4 more matches left, all from WCW Saturday night. So I'm sure that's probably in the pile. Mm-hmm. Then Gene does an interview. Hogan rarely is able to get off anything in this promo before Flair attacks him from behind. Which thank you. That was great. Mm-hmm. I thought this was just great with Flair pounding away with nice punches. I love the way the Giant kind of just casually strolled out because Flair had kind of attacked him. And then Giant hits Hogan with the chair, and who should come in and try to stop him and hold him at bay but the Zodiac. Of course, the Zodiac tells him, don't do that. Now this I thought was awesome, where Savage comes back out for the save. He grabs the chair, chases Giant and Flair away. Eric on commentary asks why the Zodiac would try to stop the Giant.
Yep.
And then Savage grabs the mic. He says, what he's going to do to Flair on Sunday can't be shown on TV. Then we get a quick kind of just a very quick thing, but something that showed great attention to detail, where he says, he says, he's like, hey, why didn't you warn Hogan that Flair was behind him? He says that to Elizabeth. Mm-hmm. And on commentary, I thought they did a good job of saying, oh, don't blame her, Macho.
And Gene, too. Gene, steps right in. He's like, oh, yeah, it's not her fault.
Yeah, she didn't see it coming, so they just kind of shove it away, and Savage is such a nut. It feels like, this could have just been an ad-lib, ad-lib line, or he's paranoid like he has been. But I thought that was great. Mm-hmm. With what happens, Hogan gets some color for this. So overall, I thought this was a really strong opening segment from Nitro. And between the match and this post angle, we had about 17 minutes of showtime without a commercial break. So they were really long, did a really good job, and I just enjoyed this angle too.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was excellent. I mean, the match was great, as we talked about, and this was really well done. We didn't have to hear too much of Hogan talking, like you said.
No.
He just kind of throws the threat, says they have to stop Flair and Giant, and then boom, we get right into it. We're playing up Hogan's eye, which Mongo did mention earlier, like we said. Hogan's eye is kind of fucked up, so they're really focusing on it. Flair's punching it, clawing at it, and that's why he's bloodied there. So they're playing up that the cage could be really dangerous for Hogan with his eye and the situation that the eye's in. So, and then the little comment about Liz was really well done too. So no, excellent opening segment. You could argue it's probably better than anything Raw's had since Shawn collapsed in November. This opening year.
Oh, that's sad. Then we, before our second matchup, we get our WCW Saturday Night rundown. Last week's WCW Saturday Night looked great. We do get Savage versus Benoit, the rematch, but the rest of the show, I don't know, because it's Sergeant Craig Pittman versus BK Wall Street, and then no other full matchups are announced. We hear that Anderson and Pillman are going to be in tag action. The Giant's going to be there, as well as Sting and Lex Luger. But
you think Pittman's still looking for a manager?
I don't know. I'm guessing without them naming the opponents, it was full-on job duty for the main stars on WCW Saturday Night this week.
Yeah, maybe with Super Bowl coming, they don't want to go too heavy on matches. They figure just kind of showcase episode.
Right. Then we get our second match, which was set up by last week's Nitro. It's the Taskmaster and Hugh Morris versus Arn Anderson and Brian Pillman. Hugh is laughing as the bell rings. And Eric, I thought, had a good line where he says it's pretty scary when Arn Anderson is the sanest guy in a match and of a group. So I thought that was pretty funny. Pillman chops a few times, and Morris laughs at him about that. Then Pillman gets power slammed to the outside. He pushes a cameraman. Eric says, "Hey, if that happens again, take the camera right off of him." Arn tags in. Him and Hugh Morris go at it. Morris chokes Pillman on the apron, but then Arn's able to come in from behind, take advantage of his spine buster. The Horsemen then start to work over Hugh Morris. Some nice chops from Pillman. But I had kind of a problem with this. And then it's what you get a lot of times in a heel versus heel type matchup where, I mean, for this match, to a degree, it didn't go too long, but it was, like a 7 or 8 minute match. Yep. And there was about a 2 to 3 minute heat segment on Hugh Morris here. And, I mean, he just wasn't sympathetic at all.
Right.
So, as a result, the crowd that was insanely hot in the first segment, just doesn't know really who to cheer for here.
Yep.
Like, the best pop was Arn's Spinebuster. So that's where the match really dragged for me. Hugh does make the tag to Sullivan, and I thought this was kind of the tactic you should use in doing a heel versus heel match, where basically Pillman and Sullivan just start beating the shit out of each other. Like they just start going nuts, punching each other, a really intense brawl. Sullivan's able to get the advantage. He ties Pillman up in the tree of woe, hits his knees, and then Sullivan's like biting his face as Arn finally steps in and kind of breaks it up. I just liked it. We do learn there that we get the respect match signed between Pillman and Sullivan for Super Brawl.
Yep.
And then Arn and Sullivan brawl all the way to the back. Arn goes full pile driver, and someone behind the curtain breaks a broom over Arn's back and lays him out. And we don't know who that is right now. That was kind of interesting. I was actually kind of racking my brain on who that was because I'd forgotten about this. But that allows the Dungeon of Doom in the ring to attack Pillman. Sullivan brings in the strap as the ref calls for the bell. Hugh Morris hits the no laughing matter, which does look impressive. And then Sullivan straps Pillman, and they beat on him for about a minute or two, allow Arn enough time to come back and recover, and Pillman kind of pissed off stomps to the back. So that again was like, I don't know. Was he playing his character? Was that how frustrated he was? Like, what was going on? Who knows? But as a match, I thought it was okay, but I just didn't really like that middle portion, so only went 1 3/4 here.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I liked it much better than you. I loved Pillman's entrance. He's just like running around with a cane, and Arn's all focused and annoyed at the same time. It's a cool dynamic they got going on. I liked the laughing too during the chops and the strikes, and it was cool because it's just like these two maniacs, right? So it's like Pillman's acting nuts, Hugh's laughing. It's like a madhouse with all these guys out there just Crazy. Yeah, we get to mention the respect match. Bobby talks about all the dangers that come with a strap match. So that was well done. Bischoff does tell the truck to take the care off Pillman if he goes at the cameraman. So they're really playing up that Pillman, this loose cannon, like he can go off at any minute. We saw at the Clash where he attacked Bobby. I really like the spine buster. I thought that was really impressive, the one he hit on Hugh Morris. And then, yeah, we do get the focusing on the kind of the leg and the kidneys and neck for a bit on him. Mongo then makes a comment. He thinks Arn is crazy to keep Pillman as a horseman. So we're continuing that as well. Like, why are they going through this and keeping the nut around? Hard beating for Morris. Sullivan's tag. And that felt really real. Like you said, just unloading on each other, brawling. We get the Tree of Woe, but Pillman just no-sells it and comes right back at Sullivan. Then he's biting him. So this all felt very real with these two guys scrapping, and it's been built well. It's not like it comes out of nowhere. Like this, I know they play it up as kind of Pillman's this nut and why does he, but they really built up the heat between Sullivan and Pillman because Sullivan has just been shit-talking Pillman from day one as this like a nut and why is he with the Horsemen and all this other stuff. So Pillman's just like, fuck you. Like, I'm done with you. So there's some believable heat behind it. The broom thing was good. And then, yeah, the end was really good. And I thought it was interesting because Pillman takes a beating with a strap and then just rolls away and walks off. And Bischoff's like, get the camera off him. So they're playing up this work shoot, which I thought was well done. The fight felt real. Pillman no-sells it and walks away, like executed. It's in this gray area where, like you said, it's believable either way. And Pillman is so good at it that you don't know what's going on. So it's been really effective the way they've handled all this. It was hard-hitting. And I like the end a lot. I went 2 3/4. I thought it was a really good tag match.
Nice. So, yeah. It's okay, but there we go. A little bit of a disagreement there. Then we come back, and it's right into our third match, which is Marcus Alexander Bagwell versus Ric Flair. So now there's three facets of attention to detail here that I thought were amazing. One, they come right back with Flair's match. So that can kind of give him an out of why he didn't come out to help Pillman when he was attacked. Because, he's getting ready for his match, which was about to just happen. Woman is out with Flair. So that really cements them as a duo now. And then as soon as Flair comes out, we see kind of sneaking behind him, coming down the entranceway and then going to the announce booth, Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff. He goes to the announce booth. He says, the funny thing about Payback is you never know when it might happen. And I thought that was amazing. I really did. So now we know, Orndorff was the one that hit Arn with the broom.
Yeah, it was real subtle. He says it just enough of a hint that but if you're not really paying attention, like you may not, like it wasn't beating over your head. It was just very, he just kind of snuck it in and chuckled. And it's a nice callback to how they treated him, of course, and put him on the show.
Right.
So.
And so here's another layer of that is what took Orndorff out was a spike pile driver by the Horsemen. Arn was going for a pile driver on the floor to Sullivan when Orndorff hit him with the broom. So that is just, I don't know who was in the back putting that together right now, but that was fantastic. I thought that was just amazing stuff here. So this match these are the type of matches I always like with Flair. And I understand these types of matches, I'm always of two thoughts. Because, throughout this match, Flair makes Bagwell look good. But I do understand the critique, too, that sometimes he makes these underneath opponents look too good for his level. But, he's the heel, so I kind of go back and forth with that. But that's an old PWO talking point. It's kind of a critique for Flair during, the greatest wrestler ever process and everything. So Flair starts the match hot with chops, punches, near falls. Bagwell comes back with a nice flurry, hits a back body drop and clothesline. A Flair to the outside, crowd's hot for that. Bagwell gives him a clothesline on the outside on the floor, and then hits him inside with another flurry. Flair's really showing ass. He does his Flair flop. Nice standing drop kick by Bagwell, and Woman is just screeching for Rick to do something on the outside. Bagwell goes for another drop kick. He misses that. Flair then immediately tries to go for the figure four, but Bagwell's able to roll him up for a 2 count. We then kind of get an unfortunate weird bump by Bagwell as they sort of just collide into each other.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's supposed to be. Maybe a back elbow.
Right. He just kind of like stumbles over to the top rope.
Yeah.
It was like
the Judas effect.
Yeah, or just like a real shitty like Rumble elimination that you get sometimes. Like a clothesline, a guy runs across the ring and falls over the top.
Yeah, so he basically like drunkenly ass over tea kettle backpedals and throws himself over the top. Then Flair gives him another chop. You can see Bagwell's chest is red. Bagwell charges into the corner. Flair gets his boots up, but he goes to the top and he gets thrown off of that. Bagwell's able to hit the superplex for a near fall. Mongo actually thought he had him right there. Bagwell then goes for the springboard splash. Flair gets his knees up, and then Flair starts strutting around, locks on the figure four, and Bagwell is able to submit to that. So I like this match. I'm pretty forgiving of Flair with his enhancement because I did think he helped elevate Bagwell here, which I appreciate. And really, besides that one awkward spot, I thought this was a good match, so I ended up going 2 3/4.
It was a good match. Yeah, Bagwell looks like a goof with these pants and the highlighted pompadour, though. Like the American male's look is not the best for him. We do get the note from Bischoff that Savage took Hogan to the hospital, and then he's headed back to the arena. And then the Orndorff stuff, of course, was really well done, like we talked about. Nice hard close on by Flair to start. I liked that. And then we kind of get like a speed bag in the corner from Flair, where he's just battering Bagwell. Bagwell batters Flair. And I thought it was a really good stretch by Bagwell. He really showed on offense. With the missile drop kick and everything else. And then, yes, that awkward spot really kind of kills the flow for a minute there. But you get Woman paying dividends right away, so she's already getting involved. She's active at ringside. It's like she was just really wanted to bust out this role, and she gets into it right away. And then, Flair comes back and gets the win. So I thought this was, and then Savage, of course, chases him off. I thought it was a good TV match. Bagwell looks sharp. He got a lot of opportunity to shine. Like you said, Flair made him look good. And it was a perfect Flair TV match. He feeds for a bit, wins clean. That was this classic stuff. And I'm always kind of a fan for these top guy against a mid-card guy who comes up and takes a shot at the top-tier dude on TV and gets like 10 minutes to go for it, whatever this went. So I went 2.5. I thought it was very good. But again, it shows you like this outshines, or in my eyes it matches, in your eyes it outshines, like a big match on Raw, like with their top stars, and then they just throw out this Flair and fucking Buff Bagwell match, or not even Buff Bagwell, but
right.
Marcus Bagwell match, and it just, it matches that, like in our world. So it's just crazy when you just look at the depth and the way they're utilizing the rosters at this point. Yeah,
it's kind of weird, and that's kind of our last build for Savage versus Flair.
Yep.
For the main
Although
event,
we've had plenty of builds, you could argue, since they've pretty much fought constantly since like November. We should count. I mean, how many matches? We'll have to count when we get to Super Bowl how many they've had. I mean, it's at least 5 or 6 on TV, I think.
Right. Well, I mean, it was popping houses on the house show circuit.
Oh yeah,
so,
yeah. Not debating. Not saying they shouldn't have, but it's definitely been. They've definitely pushed it to the ground.
Went to the well a lot with that one. Yeah. Then we get our main event, which is Sting and Luger versus the Road Warriors. And another good, nice attention to detail. When Luger comes out, he's not slapping hands with any of the fans. You do see Sting do that to a couple of fans. Big LOD chant starts out. Animal kind of shows his early power advantage in the early going. Hawk and Luger then come in. Luger hits his pile driver. It looked bad, and Eric, which it's kind of, again, a blessing in disguise where it was a crappy looking pile driver, but Hawk was going to no-sell it anyway, so that works. And on commentary, Eric was like, no, he didn't get it. He did not connect, so kind of save face there. Hawk then fires away at him, hits his fist drop. I thought some pretty good back and forth here with Sting and Luger getting the advantage. It was a meat and potatoes type match with mostly punches and kicks, but it had good energy. They keep bringing up Animal's back on commentary. That's going to be a constant focal point, it looks like, for his matches going forward.
Yep.
Luger's able to gain the advantage and hit some elbows on Animal, and then we learn the building lost power. So we kind of abruptly cut into another portion of the match with the lights back on. and Sting has the headlock on. Mongo says he thought he was at a Grateful Dead concert with all the people bringing out their lighters. Luger's able to hit a power slam on Animal, back suplex, and then all four come in for the finish where Animal no-sells a suplex on the inside and then hits a power slam of his own. And then Jimmy Hart comes out with what they said was a lead plate. He tries to help Luger. He gets up on the apron. And then that allows Luger, as Animal's trying to chase Jimmy Hart back to the back. Luger hits Animal in the back with the lead plate. The ref comes back in, counts the fall, and Luger and Sting retain. So a fun finish there. Pretty good match, like I said, meat and potatoes, but I enjoyed it for main event. I ended up going 2.5 here.
Okay. Yeah, I went 2 3/4. I liked it as well. And just a loaded show, honestly. This is the main event on top of just a packed card. I like the black shoulder pads for the Road Warriors. We get a loud LOD chant, so a little old habits dying hard just a bit from the WWF run. Like just seeing Sting and Animal start off was a cool way to kick this off. The Road Warriors return. They throw them right in with Sting and Luger. Sting is moving real fast here, bopping all around the ring. Looks really good. You can tell I think he's real happy to be working with Luger and kind of away a little bit from the Hogan stuff, probably. Like, he just seems very energized in this whole storyline that he's got going on. We get the reset with Luger and Hawk, and just a lot of power stuff, kind of reacquainting us with the Road Warriors, reminding us of what they're about, what they do. Mongo wonders if Luger showed good tagsmanship, or if he just wanted away from Hawk when Sting came in. So it's a classic Mongo line there. The Road Warriors really manhandle most of this. Bobby notes that it's rare that Sting is just manhandled. So that was a good point by Bobby. Luger slows up Animal a bit. Of course, the back comes right in. We do get the building losing power. Bischoff says they're committed to sticking past the end time of the show if they have to, because this is a lot of gravity behind this match. So if the power is out, it's not going to delay them. They're going to keep rolling. They're not going to cut us off. The crowd is really all in on the Road Warriors, too. They are pretty hyped for them. The nice back suplex by Animal. I like that. Jimmy Hart comes out. We get the lead plate, I should say. I like the thud the plate made when Jimmy chops it on the steps. It was dung. It was really loud. And then Bischoff was not happy with the finish. He said that bites when the Road Warriors won, Luger won, rather, with the plate. And Sting was not happy. They play that up. Like, we haven't seen too much where Sting realizes what happened, but we do get that here. Like, he is not thrilled at Luger. And Luger's celebrating like he just won the World Series, like on a walk-off home run or something, because he is, like, going nuts over the win. So that was a good power tag. It was feisty. The crowd was hot. Luger's stuff is awesome. It's really well done with him still kind of fighting his heelish tendencies, but he loves Sting so much that, he wants to try and be clean, but he can't. So I think all that's really well done. The Road Warriors are crisp for a team that hasn't really worked together in, what do we say, 3 years, right?
Yeah,
92,
it's been a while.
3.5 years. They look crisp, and it was a good flow in offense. So I went 2 3/4, and I liked it a lot.
Yeah. So then we get the final promo from the Road Warriors, where this was a little weird. I mean, I understand what they're doing, but I mean, I guess they have the out where it was a cheap finish here, but I mean, them demanding a match versus the winner of Harlem Heat versus Sting Luger, it felt a little weird. Like,
right.
Like, why are y'all the final people that automatically just get to be
the board of directors?
Gatekeepers? Yeah. So that was.
Well, I guess they're saying
crazy.
They got screwed, so they deserve a rematch.
Yeah, I mean, that's a decent out. But if I was Harlem Heat, I'd be like, no. Right. Animal says his back isn't right, but the past is the past. So that was fine. I mean, it was a fine promo. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, no. He says no one will beat them fair and square. Hawk says they'll get extreme and pay the price, Sting and Luger. So, no, it was fine. A fine way to wrap. And then we get Bischoff, Heenan, and Mongo close things out. And we'll see you at Super Bowl.
Yeah. So we can go into our awards. What was your match of the night?
Easy, Savage Benoit.
Yeah, agree with that. Your moment?
The whole opening brawl, woman turn, like that whole stretch from the finish of the match to the commercial.
Concur. And your MVP?
I went Flair.
Yeah, I did as well. So we're in lockstep so far. What did you have on commentary?
All right, I gave my usual bucket of Mongo quotes here. Not only the big girls, but the big beautiful girls too. Gonna have to get the suture kit. Was one for him. Bischoff, 4 guys that don't like themselves or each other. I guess I missed one word in there. I think it was don't like themselves or each other. Aren't directing traffic with 3 people that don't have a license. That was Bobby. I thought that was a funny line. Talk about how Hugh, Sullivan, and Pillman are all fucking insane. Mongo says that's like loading a gun and giving it to a kid. Sooner or later, he's going to pull the trigger. That's kind of dark. Bobby says he dips his Oreos a different way. Talking about Pillman. That was funny. Bobby says Pillman may have rabies. Mongo says you may as well make it tit for tat. And then bird dog out of the back of the truck. Don't run faster than that. That was Mongo as well.
This is not even fucking weird. Oh, good.
And I didn't have any shots fired. They kept it clean tonight.
No, that was my very last note. And a clean week. Like this is one thing they've done before too, where the week after, Bischoff read the results where we thought he might double down, he kind of zagged when you think he's going to zig. And
well, do you think they're doing this because
no shots fired?
Do you think they're planning action for Billionaire Ted and they're trying to keep clean a little bit? So like they can't throw it back at him?
Yeah, that's certainly possible.
I mean, he did run at him last week, like you said. I mean, they went pretty hard last week as well. I mean, they called out Vince not having the power to keep the stars, the RuPaul wannabes, the gold. Like they really shit on the Rumble quite a bit on that last one. But yeah, they go quiet here tonight. So you wonder if they're starting to plan some action about Billionaire Ted, and they decided to keep it clean just so they couldn't be pointed at.
Gearing up. So
no debuts.
No debuts.
And so what'd you give the show?
Oh, yeah. Overall, it did get a 2.9 rating. So I gave last week's a 7.5. I didn't think this was quite as good an episode, but still another very rock solid good episode from Nitro. So I went 7 out of 10.
All right. So same drop for me. I went 8 last week and 7.5 this week. They are rolling. And I went 7.5 the week before that. So they are on fire, honestly, as of late. So a lot of really strong output from Nitro. It's been red hot in January outside of the Clash. And I'll be real curious how Super Brawl holds up and pays off because Nitro has been great. We saw them, struggle with the Clash when it came to getting out of that hour fast-paced show and having to grind things a bit. And we'll see if Super Brawl has the same fate or if they can keep rolling. So that'll be our next episode. But yeah, I want to do our combo awards, Chad.
Yeah, so I think match of the night, even though there was a good one on Raw, we will probably go with Savage versus Benoit.
Yes, easily for me.
Okay, our best segment, do we want to go with that opening angle?
Yeah.
From Nitro.
Yeah, the opening brawl and the woman turn, I think, is all kind of one.
Commentary, I would say Nitro, actually, pretty easily.
Yeah, I liked. I thought Diesel was pretty added some energy there through most of that match on Raw, but King is just so hackney-eyed, and I don't know. Yeah, Nitro's is better consistently.
Star of the night.
I think Diesel actually.
Yeah.
I think he looked the best. Yeah, I mean that beatdown was really, really good.
And then our ratings winner was Nitro. Best show we had as Nitro.
So the drought continues. We have not had Survivor Series 1 best pay-per-view for November. Raw won the 11/20, but since then everything has been since Survivor Series. Everything has been, or I should say, since the Raw 11/20. That was after Survivor Series.
Yeah,
has been all WCW. Everything week to week, head to head, pay-per-view,
right.
All of it. I mean, do you so actually have this debate with? I was with Graham Cawthon this past weekend. He was here to visit for the Comic-Con. We hung out. And I was talking about the show with him and telling him how, I feel Nitro is underrated historically, basically all the talking points we always talk about. And he questioned our picking the Clash over the Rumble. And then I looked at our grades, Chad, and now I guess I got to go back and listen. Like, why did we pick the Clash? Like, were we just that disappointed in the Rumble? Because if you look at our match grades, match for match, we're higher on the Rumble for a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty close.
Yeah.
I think it's just one of those things where the Clash has I ranked them both 5 out of 10.
Right.
So, I mean, the Clash is shorter. So when all else fails,
that's what it was,
you go with the shorter show.
I just kind of stumbled through a defense when he asked me. He's like, "Really?" He's like, "I like."
No, I mean, I don't think it's as much. All the Clash is way better than Rumble. I wouldn't think it's egregious if you think the Rumble was better. Yeah. But I mean, I think that Rumble match is very dry. Taker versus Brett. I still think you somehow have defenders for that match just
Right.
because, I mean, it's Taker and Brett, and I just say, I mean, watch it. It's
You're right.
not,
If anyone's defending the match, they haven't seen it. I mean,
yeah, it's just not good. So
Or haven't seen
really,
it in a while,
I think,
should say.
yeah, I think with the Rumble, you really have to prop it up on Vader in the actual Rumble match, and then Goldust and Razor, which if you remember, I have some problems with that match and kind of how it's worked too.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually thought, like the ending brawl on Raw was much better than that. And, we hadn't seen Goldust. That's one thing too. We hadn't seen Goldust in a while here.
Yeah, no, he's been missing. We've seen this cycling on Raw, like we've talked about it, where on Nitro you're getting all the stars every week on Nitro, pretty much. I mean, they're pumping them out, top dogs, and on Raw you rotate the big guys, like you're not seeing them every week. So it's an interesting strategy. I feel like Raw is going to be the build to Mania will be really interesting, but I feel like it'll be after Mania when we really see any kind of sea change with them in how they present their show. I mean, they're still going to be taped every 4 weeks, so that ain't changing, but.
Yeah, so I mean, at least with the Clash, we did have the Pillman stuff too.
Yep, and the wedding was fun. So
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you look at, I think if you look at our overall awards outside of the show, it makes sense because I mean, for best match on both shows, we went Goldust versus Razor. Right. For star on both shows, we went Goldust, and for segment, we went the Pillman versus Bobby stuff. So. I think it evens out, but yeah, I mean, you could go either way with that, but I mean, even still, it's been pretty much a slaughter. So,
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
If you're hanging your hat on that,
the '96 Rumble, yeah.
Yeah.
No, TV has been dominance. Like pay-per-view, you can say the big shows have been close, but TV has been like just a rout. I mean, it's not even close right now.
I mean, I could even possibly see an argument for. In your house, 5 over Starrcade, if you say like, oh, well, Brett versus Bulldog is one of the, 15, 20 best matches in company history. Like if you're that high on it.
Yeah, and I think part of it is just WWF is just like still, they're just better at pay-per-view right this second. Like, and I think we're seeing WCW struggle with adapting the energy and the liveliness of TV and how they present guys with, when it comes pay-per-view time and the match is a little bit longer and they got more time, like it just seems like they're struggling on how to change that pacing. Then outside of Starrcade, they're not really using some of the dudes that we see on Nitro that are lighting it up. They don't sniff pay-per-view yet, so pay-per-view seems to be a bit more of a slog. And even some of the matches, like Super Brawl, we got this DDP Johnny B. Bad match that has nothing's been on Nitro with these guys at all. So they're still using Saturday Night and other shows to hype the pay-per-view. So it's an interesting way that it almost feels like different universes in a way,
Yeah. We will see. I guess our next show is Super Brawl. Been a good hype going in, so we'll see if the momentum continues.
For sure, yeah. We'll see if it carries on, and then after that, we'll have the solo Nitro, like we said, the 212.96, which is unopposed. So we'll see how that'll be an interesting one too, to see how they deliver. Will they step it up and come hot since they know they have no competition? They're coming off a pay-per-view. So, all right, that'll do it for us. Thanks as always for watching and listening and playing along and giving your feedback. Since we do have Super Bowl coming up, Chad, I'll throw a thread up on our Facebook page. If you search Wrestling Warzone on Facebook, you can like our page, and we'll put a thread up for Super Bowl. If you want to give some feedback, we can read it on air. I'll make sure I put that up for anyone.
Yeah, that'll be good.
All right, that'll do it. We'll be back soon. Everyone take care. Check out everything we have to offer at PlayStation.com, Facebook.com/PlayStation, Place number 2 donation on Twitter. Take care. Smell the napalm.